On October 31st, 2020, I was here at this store shopping for a Halloween party that night. I was approaching the check stand and I got a phone call on my cell phone, and it was the rest home that was taking care of my mother after she had experienced a significant decline in her health. The call was to tell me that she had just passed away. Not exactly the kind of place you want to be, and you're told that your mother is gone. She was the cheerleader of my life.
After I announced her death to our YouTube channel family, expressions of sorrow were greatly comforting. I've been overwhelmed and appreciated every message from those of you who reached out. More than one of you suggested that I do an episode on my mom, and I thought I would tell her story in juxtaposition to the times that she lived in this special episode of History Hunters to honor my mom. My mother, Melba Dodd, came from the small town of Tallahena, Oklahoma, where she was born in 1940 to Chester and Onita Dodd. The family was poor. My grandparents were natives of the state but felt the call to come to California during World War II, settling in Oakland, where work was plentiful in the shipbuilding yards. One of Mom's earliest memories was that of the adults blacking out the windows at night so Japanese pilots couldn't find the lights of the Bay Area in case they planned to bomb the West Coast like they did Pearl Harbor. In 1942, along came her brother Roy, who was a fan of his nephew's History Hunters channel, but passed away after Mom did. Two other brothers followed, Carl and Donald. In 1945, my grandparents moved my mother to the Central Valley of California, the land of milk and honey. Livingston would be home to Mom for the next 20 years. I don't think my mother had a happy childhood living on an isolated ranch where she was relegated to chores her brothers weren't expected to do.
Those are sad days.
Why?
I can't say my childhood was happy. Keeping kids, cleaning house, cooking, fighting with the boys. They wouldn't do anything they were told to do.
She had serious self-esteem issues and struggled with weight. She graduated from high school in 1958 and finally got to leave home for a while to attend junior college in Modesto. Mom often told me that her dreams of joining the Navy or becoming an airline stewardess to see the world were dashed because of two people, the first being her mother, who preferred to have her down on the farm, so to speak.
I wanted to go in the Navy. I didn't even get to go in the Navy. Oh, I wished I had stepped over her demand and go to the Navy.
Why didn't you?
Why didn't I?
The second person standing in her way was a classmate who pressed her for romance and wouldn't take no for an answer. But if they hadn't got together, I wouldn't have been born, nor would have my two younger brothers. That classmate was my dad. My parents were married on February 13th, 1960 at a small church ceremony in Livingston. She was glowing that day, and my dad looked dapper in his Navy uniform. No doubt Mom was excited to be finally leaving home and Livingston to live in Japan, where Dad would be stationed at Atsugi Naval Air Station. Cheerfully bidding Mom farewell at the San Francisco International Airport was her entire family. Mom enjoyed her 16 months in Japan, seeing a culture and world she never dreamed of seeing. She was a housewife, but played tourist with my dad, here at a giant statue of Buddha at Kamakura, with me in the womb 4 days before my birth. It was there at an army hospital where I was born in 1961. My parents only remained in Japan 6 weeks after my birth. We boarded the Hugh Gaffey, a Korean and Vietnam-era transport ship, for the 10-day trip to California. Dad was a shutterbug and documented the whole voyage. Sometime in early October, we slid past Hawaii, where on Oahu a baby had been born 13 days prior to me, named Barry Soetoro, who would grow up to be the President of the United States, Barack Obama. Our ship passed beneath the Golden Gate Bridge, where 19 years prior, Doolittle's Raider warships had shipped out for an attack on a country that we had just left. As the Hugh Gaffey pushed through the waters of the San Francisco Bay, Dad snapped this photo of my mother holding me as her eyes scanned Fort Mason for any sign of her family. It's one of my favorite photos. As the giant ship pulled into Fort Mason's, this was my grandparents' first view of me. That same vessel that brought me to the United States for the first time, the Hugh Gaffey, was later retired and in 2000 sunk in a missile target exercise. She now lies in a watery grave 3 miles deep in the Pacific Ocean, somewhere between Japan and Hawaii. Mom definitely loved being a mother to 3 boys, the apples of her eye. At times I felt that my mother and my grandmother competed for our affection and attention. We spent a number of years in the Bay Area, finally ending up in this modest home where my first memories were formed. Even today, the aroma of mowed grass takes me back to my memories of Dad cutting our front lawn at 139 South Temple Drive in Milpitas. I had a chance to revisit my old home in Milpitas several years ago. On that visit, I recreated an old childhood photo of me holding a Mattel Agent Zero camera that transformed into a toy gun. Another fond memory was looking forward to Fridays when Mom would get off work as a bank teller and take Kevin and I out for a burger. Maybe that's why I'm passionate about dining out today. I remember trips to Santa's Village in Scotts Valley and to Frontier Village in San Jose, 2 family attractions no longer around today. In 1966, we moved to this house in Modesto. It was here that I remember my young cousin Sandra visiting us. She died at age 10 from leukemia. It was also in this house where our family gathered with my Uncle Carl and his family before he was shipped off to Vietnam to fight that crazy Asian war in the wards of Kenny Rogers in the first edition. My Uncle Carl was seriously wounded when he was shot by a sniper perched in a tree, the bullet ripping through his chest and out his back. When Mom received the news that her brother had been shot, she cried in the bedroom for what seemed like hours, unable to be comforted. My Uncle Carl eventually recovered and made his way back home. Unfortunately, my mother had to watch him die of cancer decades later. Mom read to us boys a lot, and I credit that experience as launching my life pursuit in writing and creating. I remember coming home from school for lunch. Even today, when I hear the closing song to Bewitched, I feel like it's time to head back to school for the remainder of the day. My brothers and I would have a good laugh during our family slideshows when old photos of Mom's hairstyles over the years would pop up. I remember her ratting her hair to get that hair to poof up in the air like that. She even tried being a brunette for a while. Mom always worried a lot about how her hair looked, and she'd let you know when it wasn't to her liking. Mom worked a number of years as a teller at a number of banks before going to work for Pacific Gas and Electric. My mother's love for music rubbed off on me. She would even dance with my great-grandmother to Neil Diamond's Cracklin' Rosie. When I hear Glenn Campbell or Gordon Lightfoot, I think of her. Mom was also a diehard Elvis fan. I remember being picked up from a school function in 1977 to see her crying because Elvis had died. Mom loved Disneyland and once went with good friends she'd met in Japan, seen here in this early 1960s shot. She took us to amusement parks in Disneyland quite a bit. She even spotted Walt Disney in front of the Mad Hatter shop on Main Street and posed with him for this photograph with my brother and I out of view in strollers at their feet. We took a lot of trips together starting at a young age, such as the time we visited the Steinhardt Aquarium at San Francisco's Golden Gate Park. When living in Oakdale, California, we attended the 1977 rodeo, where afterwards we happened upon actor Slim Pickens, who posed with Mom for this photo. It would drive me crazy at times when classmates would come up to me and ask if my mom was my sister because of her youthful appearance, and boy did she eat that up. Mom and Dad accompanied me to the 1977 inauguration of Jimmy Carter in Washington, D.C.
As my high school teacher, Miss Judy Coleman, used to say, we must adjust to changing times and still hold to unchanging principles.
It would be my last trip together with them. Their marriage was strained. They split up, plunging me into some lonely and depressing days as a teen as I split my time between them on the weekends. Mom was eager to find love again, which is why she rushed into relationships that ended up being poor choices and 2 more failed marriages. After her third marriage soured, Mom gave up any hope that she would find a fulfilling relationship. Mom enjoyed taking cruises, sometimes with a friend, but mostly by herself. Unfortunately, on a cruise to Alaska, she was befriended by a much younger employee named Bogdan who took advantage of her. Long after the cruise was over, they maintained an email relationship, and she was convinced there was a romance between them. However, it became apparent to everyone but Mom that his requests for money for a host of sudden emergencies were nothing but the financial scamming of a lonely elderly woman who had a growing mental illness. One of our last trips together was our 2008 Southern California trip, when I visited former Hollywood starlets Terry Moore and Kathleen Hughes at their respective homes. We also had a chance to go to Disneyland, just the two of us, which was our last time together there. Mom exhibited some strange behaviors on that trip, overstepping boundaries like kissing a child stranger on the cheek during a conversation with his family at Disneyland's California Adventure. She also cozied up to a group of 4 young men visiting from another country and insisted that I take this photo of them together. In one of the food lines, she told a lie to someone that she was from Alaska when somebody made mention of her Alaska t-shirt. It was a sign of strange things that were happening in her head. Mom was also a huge fan of country singer Aaron Tippin and could never get enough of his concerts, so in June 2015, I took her to see him perform at the Merced County Fair.
You've got to be your own man, not a puppet on a string. And never compromise what's right, and uphold your family name. Who stand to something, you'll fall for anything. Gotta know.
That same year, I took Mom to see her old home in Oakland, where this photo was taken, only to realize that she could barely stand without falling. Later on, I learned that dementia can cause a person to lose their sense of balance. We also were able to duplicate a photo at the same spot where our ship arrived at Fort Mason in October 1961. In time, my mother exhibited some psychotic episodes, and she had several contacts with mental health professionals and the police. Mom became dependent on me to take her to medical and dental appointments. It was heartbreaking to see my mother time and time again falling and breaking bones, with bruises on her hand being commonplace. While living by herself, Mom was over-medicating for pain and began losing a lot of weight. She was in and out of skilled nursing facilities to regain her strength. In 2016, her appearance took a startling decline with a great weight loss.
Who kept your kids?
She continued falling, and it became apparent in 2017 that she could no longer live on her own. The last straw was this moment on July 7th, 2017, when she fell and broke her hip, and I had to call paramedics.
I'm sorry.
One of the hardest things that I had to do was convince Mom that she needed to go into an assisted living facility. My strong-willed and strong-headed mother was now living under the rules of other people and forced to live with people she considered old enough to be there, while refusing to believe that she actually belonged there. The facility took much greater care of her than she was taking care of herself at home. It was just that her attitude was sour. I get that. Who wants to be removed from their home and forced to live where they don't want to? During her time at the assisted living facility, I would often visit as much as I could while she unloaded on me about experiences that she didn't like. But she did grow attached to some of the staff members and made friendships among residents. She participated rather reluctantly on outings arranged by staff. She would often try to get me to sit with her when a local entertainer came by once a month to perform.
Branches of the trees were too wide, and that is why the moment's always right. If there's a new right of love, it's cherry picking out a glass of wine when you're in love.
I also sat outside with her and the residents as they watched their fireworks show on the 4th of July, 2019. A highlight of her week would be our lunch outings to Olive Garden, where she would, without fail, try to get the waiter or waitress to pour a little more than her free sample of wine. During this visit to Olive Garden, she explained about an altercation she had with a fellow resident, but it's hard to say if she actually caused it.
You want to slap him because he did something to you?
Gonna stab me with a fork? Wouldn't you want to slap him? Boy. I had them. They don't do nothing to anybody. They're so nice in there.
Well, what do you want them to do?
Take the little in the room and chew them out.
I continued to do things for her while trying to maintain some distance, lest she try to consume my life. I saw so much wasted potential in my mother because bitterness had taken root in her heart. She could have made life what she wanted, but she let others control her. Despite her many shortcomings, Mom had a heart of gold when she wanted to share it. She also maintained a sense of humor that would entertain others from time to time.
That's my granddad. That's Grandpa's brother. And somebody else got into a fight. And
I heard many people tell me that Mom was a real character, one of a kind, and she was. In this video, she was telling an emergency room technician about a former teacher of hers who fell asleep in class while her classmates did ridiculous things to him.
They fall asleep on you?
He'd fall asleep. He gave us a word book called Uncle Funny Bunny.
Oh my goodness.
He'd fall asleep, and the girls would get up there and make his hair like alfalfa.
Oh wow.
Mom never liked being videotaped, but this is one time that my son captured her on video in Carmel in 2010.
My news.
Turn the camera off.
I believe it was divine timing when I felt the nudge in the summer of 2019 to fulfill my mother's wish to see Graceland, home of Elvis Presley. I arranged the trip, and my son Brett joined us as we flew to Tennessee so Mom could finally visit Elvis's house.
Drink Elvis's water.
Because that is original. Elvis used this water fountain, huh?
Huh?
Water. Elvis used it, huh? Yeah.
My hair is messed up.
It would be our last major trip together. I had no idea at the time what was coming in 2020, so looking back, the timing was our last shot to take that trip. And right after that, the world would come to a screeching halt with COVID-19, ruling out any trip to Graceland in 2020. Mom was the type of mom who would call you if you didn't call her within 2 or 3 days. She would often call to tell me that she missed me or ask about the grandkids.
I love you, my son. Call me tonight. I love you. Bye-bye. I love you.
When I'd call her, though, the TV would be blaring Gunsmoke or The Waltons or Little House on the Prairie or even Matlock. And she also loved Walker, Texas Ranger. She'd have to turn down the volume, drop the phone, and fiddle with the remote. Many times she would say, "Just a minute, I need to turn the TV down," and it would take a good minute or so before we could start a conversation. COVID-19 restrictions in California prevented me from seeing Mom for months beginning in March, until things let up ever so slightly in September, that I was allowed to visit her through the sliding glass door. On 2 or 3 occasions in September of 2020, I stood outside while she sat in a wheelchair inside her room. Over the next few weeks, Mom's health began to fail in a pronounced way. She couldn't see the dentist, and she had lost several teeth because of all the medications she was taking. Her kidneys also began to fail, and doctors told me that a large brain aneurysm threatened her life at any given moment. I've been a staunch critic of California's lockdown and believe it has killed the spirit of many across our land, and I'm sure that it ushered Mom into a faster decline than normal. In October, her phone calls to me stopped around the time that she spent weeks in the hospital for kidney failure. When I was finally able to see her via FaceTime after being taken to a skilled nursing facility, I was stunned beyond belief at my mom's appearance. She had declined dramatically. She was failing in a shocking way. I had to take a screenshot as proof how far she had declined. The next day, October 29th, was her 80th birthday, and I tried to go by to see her, only to be told I had to stand outside her window. Her condition was heartbreaking. The nurse tried to wake her from her sleep by announcing my presence, and I could see a slight smile on her face, but she seemed like she wasn't present. Mom, can you hear me? Hi, Mom. Her eyes were searching the ceiling for something that I couldn't see. Hi. Came by to wish you happy birthday. The next day, Friday, October 30th, the day before she died, she wasn't responding at all.
Love you, Mom.
I walked away from the window, convinced I would never see her again this side of heaven. On Saturday, October 31st, Halloween of all days, she was gone. She passed away in room 51 of Turlock Nursing and Rehabilitation. Mom was 80. My mother once gave me a copy of Love You Forever by Robert Munsch. The words are especially poignant today now that Mom is gone. I'll love you forever. I'll like you for always. As long as I'm living, my baby you'll be.